Welcome to the Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons podcast. Here, you will raise your awareness to what is, and most importantly, what isn't working for you in all areas of your life, to identify your unique abilities and superpowers, to take purposeful action. We all get stuck, and now you can unstuck yourself with me every week. Now let's get unstuck, peeps.
Let's go.
I'm so overjoyed, surprised that I still have so much more to give. And I want to thank each and every one of you for listening this far. Even if you press pause or come back to it a week later, I thank you. And that was the purpose of this podcast, is for us to have a conversation at your own time. And granted, some of it is one-sided because I can't hear your response, but you still send me messages, and I appreciate that. Do not stop. You still text me, you still inbox me. Feel free to email me. No one has emailed me at crystal@crystalclearpurposes.com. That's my email address. However, the messages from Instagram, Facebook, text messages, always so powerful. So December the 1st, 2022 will be a whole mother effing year, y'all. A whole year of the Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons podcast, where she started recording in her closet. Why? She didn't have no mic. And she was kind of hesitant of actually pursuing this. So thankfully, I took a course and they told us, I learned so much, but they told us you can record on your phone. I was like, ain't no way. It has to be trash. No, I did so many of my episodes from my phone and they were not trash. I did get feedback that the first couple were too low, but that's what constructive criticism comes in and the value of it. I heard it. It stung a little bit like, ooh, it is too low. And I fixed it and it's done. And so many more people have heard those episodes. So thank y'all for providing that constructive criticism. Highly appreciate it. So I wanted to spend the next 3 weeks by celebrating leading up to the anniversary, excuse me, Podaversary, the 1-year Podaversary of Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons podcast by running it back. Meaning I have reached out to many of you who frequently listen, who maybe only listen once, twice. Doesn't matter. All of it is appreciated because the message will be for those who are ready. Y'all know the saying, the teacher appears when the student is ready. So with that being said, I wanted to get your opinion on which were your favorite episodes out of all the 50. The 50! We did 50 episodes. But I wanted to get your feedback on which ones were your favorite, so then we can run it back. Because a lot of times, even for myself, I'll listen to a podcast and forget all about the aha moments. Luckily, this was a top one. And I covered so much in that. So I'm happy to actually run it back, because when I listened back to it, I was like, oh, I was dropping some gems. Like, even though it was early, I was on it. And I'm so glad y'all enjoyed it and appreciated it and shared it and listened over and over and over again. Even when I was fearful, even when I was doubtful, even when I was feeling awkward and just unsure, will I run out of content? How much stuff can I actually talk about? How long can I talk for? Who would want to listen? And every week, you all crush those doubts, fears, and worries. So thank you. I cannot thank y'all enough. I'm not gonna cry. In this episode that I'm sharing, that I'm running back to celebrate our 1-year anniversary of the Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons podcast, I went into highlighting what Brene Brown has expressed so many times. Being clear is kind and being unclear is unkind. And then I went into opportunities and swinging from another tree, because other saying is we tend to reach for the highest branch we can see. A lot of times that is our friend circle, that is our family circle, that is just people at work. If you're a go-getter, if you're a planner and people around you are the opposite, sometimes we feel like an alien. Shout out to Beyonce, alien superstar. I resonate. I am unique. You, then I, Q, U, E. All right, focus. And that could leave us trapped in that tree, in that bubble. So explore. And I also went into honoring yourself and your voice by speaking up, asking for what you need. And you might have to say it 2 or 3 times. And if that's the case and you don't want to say it, then you may have to say that as well. I have asked for this X, Y, and Z. This is the third time you have dismissed my request. I do not condone repeating this again. And I'm curious to know what is keeping us from getting to whatever that goal is for you. So this is just a little taste. I want to also reiterate this, and you'll hear this in the episode that will run back. Giving yourself grace. We're all on this process together. And unstucking yourself is a process. And the goal is not to remain unstuck. We will continuously get stuck in different relationships and reoccurring problems and environments, even mental capacity, physical restraints, all of this. Life continues to life. And when that happens, how can we, in our own way, find a way, a solution, an outlet to either abruptly unstuck ourselves, gradually unstuck ourselves? Different scenarios will call for various solutions. Thank you, peeps, for being here. Please share the podcast. You have no idea how much this could impact someone else, how these words and messages can influence others to do the very thing that they've been thinking, they've been wanting, they've been secretly hiding and avoiding, and just didn't have a resource. This is a resource. Share the resource. And also, enjoy the 51st episode of Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons podcast. Hello. Hey, welcome. You made it. Welcome to the first episode of Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons. All right, so we're going to go through a few things of what the show will entail, who's it for, who am I, and why did I have a pull to do a podcast. I just want you to get comfortable and kind of sit back and take this in, and also know that I'm going to say some stuff that really has you thinking, this is like message. Like, I'm really going to hit some things, and then also I'll say some things you're like, Crystal, no, I don't agree with that. And that is the way it is supposed to be. I don't want to be your savior. I don't want to be your guru. None of that. I'm just a regular old girl. Well, I'm kind of dope. But anyways, you should have differentiating opinions. I hope that's a word. Just come along for the ride. So, why are we here? So, the Unstuck Yourself podcast is designed for those of us who have found ourselves being more silent when we know we could be more vocal. Maybe it's because our job doesn't, quote unquote, allow us to do so. Or it could be in a relationship. You're scared to hurt your spouse's feelings or your friend's feelings. But even more than that, of you not speaking your truth, you're not initiating uncomfortable conversations that growth can come out of for you and that other person. I love Brene Brown. She shared in one of her books that being kind is also being clear, and being unclear is unkind. And we've been taught for so long, like, don't lie, don't hurt people's feelings, be nice. And yes, but wouldn't it be nice if for a single person who is dating someone and you're on a date or something? I'm not single, just clarification. But if you're like on a date and the person you're with is like, yo, I think this person is trash. I hope they don't ask me for a second date. I hope none of, like, this is it. And I can't believe I'm staying here this long. But yet they're with you the entire night. You're getting excited. And it's for male, female, non-binary, whatever. I would want to know, like, yo, I think you're really cool, but I don't think we're a match. Wouldn't that be dope? No, I'm not a relationship expert. No, I'm not a career guru. But boy, oh boy, I have been stuck in multiple situations, and I continue to get stuck. However, I have found a way to unstuck myself quicker than I have before in the past. So if I take it all the way back And I think about being young Crystal, little baby Crystal, maybe like 5 or 6 years old. I do recall myself being very inquisitive and asking a lot of questions. And in my family, some of you might be able to relate, asking a lot of questions can lead to your parents or your guardian just basically saying, just do what I say. Don't ask any questions, just do it. And I get it. I definitely get it. But now as an adult, I don't get it. Like back then, actually, even back then, I didn't get it. So we might have situations where you have questions come up and then you have a sibling or a cousin or someone who seems to have more authority than you because they're older tell you, don't worry about it, just do it. And you're like, I guess I'm just supposed to do it. Maybe when I get older, I'll just know why I'm doing it. Guys, you have to understand this. There is literally only one you. That is your superpower. No one can tell you about what makes up you, right? Even when I have people listen to the podcast or I'm coaching my clients, I want to create the space where that full you comes out and is courageous and brave. Going back to little Crystal, I knew I needed the information in order for me to feel confident, in order for me to assess the situation, in order for me to be able to understand what I was doing and what I wanted the outcome to be or what the other person wanted the outcome to be. Because if we're just checking boxes or just filling in blanks or just like putting things here and not knowing the bigger picture, what are we learning? What are we getting from that experience? And as I got older, I found myself asking less questions, which then led to me not feeling so confident. Now I'm second guessing. I feel like I should know this, but I don't know this. Even in friend groups, I didn't have a lot of girlfriends, like cliques. I mentioned that before. I remember being in, I think it was high school, and there was a popular girl group that hung out tough, meaning they hung out a lot. Just in case people don't know what that means. I remember being in class with a couple of the girls from the group, and they were talking about one of the other girls that wasn't in the class that is a part of that group. They were talking about what she was wearing or either talking about how her hair looked. And I remember looking at them probably with judgy eyes and like, why are they doing this? Like everybody in the classroom can hear you and you're saying her name. Some of the girls, well, the two girls that were talking, they was like, what? You think we're being mean, don't you? I'm like, yeah, that just stayed with me. It really just is ingrained in me now, where if I'm a part of your crew and you can easily just talk down about me in front of everybody, my brain held on to that shit to a default where it made me not want to trust people. That one comment, that could have been a discussion that was had amongst them. Like, if we're friends and you really like ride or die for me, why the hell are you talking about me? Like, and I want to put it very clearly. Yes, I have talked about my friends, so I'm not exempt from this whatsoever. But these are just a couple of the steps of how I too got myself stuck. You're not alone. You're not crazy. There's nothing wrong with you. It happens. If we fast forward, as we get older, we're not learning the skills or the tools to assess when we're stuck. Half of us are walking around, don't even know we're stuck. Half of us are 10 years later, when we told ourselves 10 years prior that we were actually not going to be where we are. We're going to be way beyond that. But looking back, we didn't make any steps to make sure we will reach that destination. Some of us are not even recognizing that we're stuck. And I'm here to say, you're just right on time. There's nothing wrong with that. When I decided after high school, I said I was going to go and work in the medical field because I always knew I wanted to help people. Sick people are in the hospital. I could do that. Go to the hospital. People need help. Got it. Check. Good. My first thought was I want to be a doctor. And I don't really know why. I think it's just the highest branch that I could reach for that I heard about in terms of careers. So I don't know if you heard the quote, we tend to reach for the highest branch we can see. And that basically means whatever we're around, whomever we're around, typically what we do is look for the best person within that bubble that we live in and aim for that. If we are reaching for quote unquote success. For me, it was like, oh, medicine, people need help, doctor, top of the list, got it. And then talking to people about me wanting to go and become a doctor. One, don't talk to people who aren't in the field that you want to talk to. Do not use resources that aren't going to produce the outcome that you want. But so many people say, you don't want to be a doctor, you'll be in school forever, you'll be away from your family forever. And that might be the case. But they aren't doctors, so they don't get to tell you the positive side of being a doctor. I decided I'm going to be a nurse. And then I was like, oh no, I don't want patients to die on me. Like, that was a real fear of mine. Like, I'm scared to get attached to them. And now that I'm speaking this out loud, I'm thinking it's because a lot of my friends growing up, they would move or we would go to a different school. So I really had separation issues, I guess, or an abandonment, and not even abandonment, but just separation. Much so where me and my sisters, we're like 2 years apart. I'm the middle child. And my older sister, I remember her leaving middle school. So we were in middle school together. I always had a sister with me in school. My younger sister is 1.5 years younger than me. When me and my older sister were in middle school, when she ended up going to high school and I was at middle school by myself and my younger sister didn't come to middle school just yet, every time when we would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, I would cry. I never told anybody that. Maybe years later, I told my sister or maybe my mom, I'm not sure, but didn't know why I was crying. Had no idea. And I do recall thinking I'm alone. My sister's not here. Even though we weren't in the same class, we may not have seen each other throughout the day, but the knowing of her being there gave me comfort, gave me courage, gave me strength. And when she wasn't, I was like, done. I say that because I ended up saying I wanted to, I don't even know why I'm saying that. Anyways, I ended up deciding I wanted to be, I said I didn't want to be a nurse. So my mom ended up telling me about a woman she worked with. Her daughter was a radiologic technologist. And my mom brought home a book for me to look at of the human body and anatomy. And I'm just a visual learner. So me seeing that book with the different pages, with the bones, it's been a minute. Anywho, the different systems, I was just fascinated. So I decided that I'm gonna be an x-ray tech. And plus I had an x-ray done of my finger because I played basketball and I think I got, it was jammed by basketball, something like that. She was like, remember when you got your x-ray done of your hand? And I was like, oh yeah, I do remember that. I could do that. Fast forward, I go to school, I get a job. I'm working at a hospital during the day shift, which is a very, very popular position. I'm learning a lot. I'm seeing a lot. I'm going to the OR. No lie. Within a year, I remember contacting one of my classmates. Her name is Elise. And I was like, Elise, are we supposed to be doing this for the rest of our lives? For like 30 plus years? I didn't know everything about x-ray. I didn't x-ray every body part. But I knew, nah, this ain't it. Like, it had to be more. I ended up getting my bachelor's because to become an x-ray tech back then, you just needed your associates, and then you actually didn't need your associates. I ended up getting my associates. Now you do, but you become certified. You go through a 2-year program. Now the programs are 18 months. But I was like, well, let me go get my bachelor's. Maybe I'll be like a supervisor. Like, again, reaching for the tallest branch I could see. And that's what I saw. Until someone, one of my supervisors asked me to like cover and be a supervisor for the day or a couple of days. And I was like, well, this is trash. I don't like any of this shit. And how much more would I get paid? Not that much? No, thank you. Then I decided, well, let me go become registered in mammography. Did that. Knew I didn't want to do that full time. But if you can tell in my story, I do enjoy learning. I'm okay with being presented with a new opportunity,
but I was looking for something. I went to a different hospital, got paid more money, more opportunities, more positions available. This is cool. That's what Crystal likes. And I noticed there were instructors that worked at the clinical sites with their students. And one of the clinical instructors that was there working with the x-ray students at that hospital said, hey, you should think about applying to be an instructor. And I'm like, really? I enjoy working with the students if they worked. Meaning, if they showed initiative, if they were asking questions, they didn't have to do all the work, but they had to like get up and do something. There were students that would just sit there if an order came through and wouldn't even like get up, ask questions. So I knew I wanted that collaboration and back and forth. I didn't like the students just going off doing things by themselves unless they were confident enough to do it. I like working with people. I did know that. So I ended up applying for the instructor job. I became a clinical coordinator at the school soon after. Again, I like new opportunities. Position was open. I was new, but I was like, I still want to try it. I really enjoyed teaching. I never thought I would. And I actually remember one of the girls in my imaging class saying that when she graduated, she wanted to be an instructor. I was like, you stupid. I know that's wrong. But I remember, I was like, so we spending all this time in school to get a job for you to come back to school? Again, my bubble was small, the branch was low, like it didn't even cross my mind. While I was an instructor and I became the clinical coordinator, I remember my supervisor saying at the school, she was like, we want you to be more administrative. We want you to be able to do things here at the school. And I remember making a stance like, no, I need to be in the clinic. I like working with the students. I like seeing them like light up when they figure something out. I like problem solving with them. Some of the students were a little challenging, but for the most part, I enjoyed the collaboration going back and forth. Being a clinical coordinator was fun, but then there was another opportunity for me to work back at the hospital in administration. And this was presented to me of, hey, I think you'd be good at this. And it was like, really? I worked in that position for almost 2 years, but I got really stuck. And stuck for me was my supervisor telling me, when we go into this meeting, don't say a word. You just sit there. What? Stuck for me was being in a room full of people who had been there longer than me, but were offering suggestions that weren't helpful for the problem we were trying to solve. Stuck for me was coming home, feeling very confused and lost and scared that this would be the rest of my life, of my voice not being valued, of me just being a puppet, of me not voicing my experience, which I had at that time. I think I had like 12 years of experience in that field. So even though I might have been the newest person in that position, but amongst the group, did not mean my experiences didn't matter or didn't bring any value. It was a lot. It was a lot. Up until in that position, I was presented with an opportunity, or introduced, I should say. I was introduced to Arbonne, their products. Didn't know anything about it. Some of you may have heard it. Some of y'all actually were introduced to it by me. You're welcome. And thank you for supporting. No, seriously. I still use the products. I love them. Other people still use them, and I thank y'all for that. Since my work situation wasn't going well, I was like, well, I need to get my health straight. And I learned a lot through that. One, didn't even know like dairy was inflammatory. Didn't even know it. But I learned so much, and I had been in the medical field for so long that hadn't even come up throughout almost 15 years. The biggest thing that I took from that was the people I met. I was able to meet a group of people who were super positive. They were very encouraging, and they gave me another branch, a higher branch that I could reach for. And that was being around people that were happy. I literally started that business because I wanted to be around people who were happy. It wasn't to make a ton of money. But in that corporate job, I was alone. I was isolated. I felt just by myself. And I know I needed that collaboration. Luckily for me, though, the Arbonne business taught me so much. I had some hurdles, I had some challenges, but I grew through all of that. And I'm so thankful for it because it led me down a path that I couldn't even write for myself. Once I became an X-ray tech and I ended up going up the ladder, I was like, I have no idea where to go from here. Because the view I'm seeing is trash. I don't want, and I didn't want my supervisor's job when I was in corporate. I did not. It was so hard. It was really hard. But I'm thankful for that time because now looking back, it allowed me to grow what I call my inner compass. Or you could call it the burning building example. Being in that space for so long, trying to figure it out, going to other people, HR, went to the CEO, like really trying to figure out like, how do I make this work? How do I make it work? And I just ran through all my resources. The outcome though, was me recognizing like, Crystal, you knew all along that you asking questions, that you wanting more from your supervisor, you needing that connection wasn't working for you, like not having it. So seeing the group of people that I met through that business, the Arbonne business, comparing it to what I was experiencing in my corporate world allowed me to be aware of the differences of the two. And it allowed me to speak up for the things that actually gave me energy rather than depleting me. So I veered more towards, what is it that I want? I like being around people who are positive. I like being around people who can dream. Meaning, it could be as simple as I want to take a trip with my spouse, my family, 2 times a year, 4 times a year. Because everybody I was around was like saving their time so that they could take 1 trip per year and then complain before they went on their trip and complain after they came back from their trip. I wasn't seeing a lot of hope around me. And it made me realize and pause and think, what do you want your life to look like, Crystal? It's only been a year. And then it was like a year and a half. So having that exposure to Arbonne just allowed me to see a different branch. But it also allowed me to learn how to ask for the things I wanted and needed without feeling like I had to convince the other person I was speaking to, but more so honor my own voice. And that came from both sides. We are original. People aren't going to get the full spectrum of us. They just can't. They're not us. So even people that I would talk to in my business, they wouldn't understand me. And then in my corporate job, they didn't understand me. I understood me. How can I honor me? I say all of this to say, me having that business, recognizing I am able to learn a lot and I'm able to grow that. If I'm passionate, if I'm focused, if I know the bigger picture. And I want to give a shout out to those who did help grow this whole new world for me. Our Arbonne team is amazing. We did that and it's still going. That is amazing. And I have not actively grown it for 7 or 8 months. That is dope as shit. And I'm going to celebrate that. And I'm thankful for the people who gave me a chance, even when they didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I'm thankful for that. But in that process, I recognized, because people kept telling me, like, Crystal, you're a light. Crystal, you uplift, you encourage, you bring so much, you give so much. And I recognized I want to do it my way. I don't want to do it under a corporate umbrella. I don't want to do it under another business. I want to do it so that I can strengthen my compass and give that to the people who are looking for it. The people who have noticed their own superpower, but also know the power of seeing someone else who is stuck and got themselves unstuck. That's a resource. I decided to do this show and I was pulled to do it because through all of this, someone shared a podcast with me. And back then, like years before, my husband was like, you should listen to a podcast. I think you would like it. I was like, what? I don't know. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And also, I wasn't reading any type of books because I told myself, I'm too busy. I ain't got time to sit down and read no book. Even though I was sitting down watching reality TV shows, or maybe you do the same thing. Maybe you drink a glass of wine or two every night. You have your quiet time. No shade. Do that shit. But are those things helping you solve the hurdle, the challenges, the problems that you're facing? And even my family and friends, they did the best they could and listened to me express my frustration, but we didn't get anywhere about solving the problem. Listening to the podcast, one in particular is Kathy Heller, Don't Keep Your Day Job. Like, I don't know who told me that. If you're listening and you remember telling me that, I cannot for the life of me remember. But I've been listening to that for like 3.5 years. She interviews so many dope people. Again, there were like tall ass branches just popping out of my little mental tree. So now I'm like, ooh, you could actually do that. Oh, you can actually say that? You can, what? People writing books, people telling their life journey of how they've unstuck themselves. And it just blew my mind. So then I started listening to more podcasts. I started listening to books on Audible. I was like, ooh, if I like a podcast, then I would like a book. But then I would listen to the books, and then they're like, I want to read the book. Like, I want to highlight it. I need a circle. Like, who likes to write notes within their book and like do the little rabbit ear and fold it down, or like come back to this shit, this is it, like message. Oh, I'm cracking myself up. Those were some of my resources of unstucking myself. Like literally, how can I get out of my brain and out of my frustration and into the brain of people who are like, yeah, that happened to me, but this is what I did. Like, oh shit, you did? All right, tell me more. I was listening to Kathy's podcast. Oh, actually, it wasn't her podcast. It was a live, IG live. She was just talking. I don't even know what she was talking about. Maybe she was sharing the podcast program that she was offering. Now, the funny thing is, I had been told before I should do a podcast. And I actually started with a business coach 6 months ago for my mindset and career coaching business that I do. And I coach clients one-on-one. I told my business coach, I was like, these are my goals. I want to have a podcast. I want to write a book. The stories I have to tell, especially. So I want a podcast. I want to write a book. I want to speak publicly in corporate events. I want to have that corporate contract. Like I want everything that I have been going through years prior to be of service for other people, to let them know you're not alone. Because I didn't know there was a such thing as coaches or programs you could take to help you unstuck yourself. I didn't know. So this podcast is a way for me to create this new bubble for those who maybe don't even listen to a podcast. Maybe those who don't even know what the hell coaching is. I had a thought when I was in corporate, working that last corporate job. I forgot to say I left the job. Like, it's been 2.5 years. I had a thought of, do I need therapy? Should I go to a therapist? And literally the next thought was, I don't know if this is a big enough problem for me to go to therapy. Again, no one around me that I knew personally was openly talking about therapy. That's not wrong. It's not right. It's just, it is what it is. So as the thought came, it went just as quick. And I struggled during that time. Getting support and help can look a variety of ways. Working out, it did what it could. And it does help to move your body, but it doesn't address the stressor of what you're going through. I was pulled to start this podcast when I ended up going to a networking event, and one of the guys in the group, when I told him who my clients were, and they are the ones who are smart as F, they know their superpowers, but they also have buried it a little bit because people have judged them. They felt alone. They felt like this idea isn't major enough. And this is not a message for you to leave your job. But it is a message to you. If your job is not valuing your skills, if your job is not valuing your opinions and your thoughts and your experience, and you want more, you know you're able to give more. And I don't mean more work. I mean more value, more insight. but you're not utilizing that out of fear, out of self-doubt, if that's occurring for you, that is a problem. Because what happens is it continues. That doesn't just stop in your job. It actually leads over into your relationship, whether it's romantic relationship, whether it's a friendship, acquaintances, all of that. When we start dimming our light, when we start trying to conform, fit into a box, try to look like everybody else, we be getting it fucked up. We be messing up. Things don't feel right. Then we get mad and frustrated, and we just spiral. We just spiral. But the world needs you. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here. I've gone over what the show is about, who I am, and why I was pulled to do this podcast. And I'll add to it that even though I mentioned it to my business coach months ago, people kept telling me it. So I'm listening to Kathy. She's going live on Instagram, and she's talking about the podcast program. And again, I'm thinking it's nothing because I listen to her all the time. I didn't even sign up. There was a workshop that was for free, 5 days. And I was like, I don't need that. But it was so much value in it that I was like, damn it, I missed it. I should have signed up. But she was going live, and I think she was talking about it. And she was like, I'm about to answer some questions, see if people want to go live. She hit the button, and she was like, we'll see if Teresa can hop on. I hit the button, just seeing, like, typically I don't do that, but I was like, oh, let's just see. Hit the button. She was like, it's not working for Teresa. Let me hit it again and see if we can grab her. My screen, half of it goes black, and now I'm live with Kathy Heller. The same woman who has been coaching, mentoring me, dropping so many just gems after gems after gems, different, her and I are live. And I tell her that. I'm like, you just don't know how much you've helped me. I was not going to cry, but I did feel just the feels come up. I was so thankful to be in that moment with her. And I told her about my coaching business. I talked to her about speaking to kids. Like, I'm always going to give that knowledge. I want every person I come in contact with to know that you are dope just as you are, but you need to know that. You need to believe that, so that anybody else tries to come up to you and tells you differently, you're like, oh, you just don't get it. I'm a child of God. Like, you just don't even understand. I actually said, you have coached and mentored me from afar, and I appreciate you for that. And I told her, I was like, I do want to have a podcast one day. I do. And she was like, why not now? And I'm like, I don't know. But in that moment, I realized I was holding myself back. She saw something in me, and I felt it because it's already been there. I literally just told my coach I wanted to have my own podcast months ago. And shout out to my mother-in-law. She actually gave me a gift of telling me she has a prayer book. And she was like, our prayers came true. And I was like, huh? She was like, I wrote in my prayer book, when I talked to you, you said you wanted to have your own podcast. And that was July of 2021, y'all. As soon as she said, I kind of remember me being over there, and I was like, that's crazy. I love it. Full circle. Like, that was the best gift ever. When Kathy basically called BS on me for not having my podcast and me making, I would say excuses. Like, I was saying I need structure. I need help. Like, I want to have my own podcast, but I need structure. I signed up for a program. The program is dope. I can just go. Meaning, with the structure that they have, with the resources they're giving me, with the support, with the knowledge, I don't have to research everything and get stuck and start that analysis paralysis of what if, I don't know, what if. Like, they literally give us homework at the end of the week, and we go at our own pace. And I want y'all to understand that some of the tools that I learned even before Kathy, and some of you have learned it, you just forgot. So I want to remind you, having that awareness, and you can call it your conscious, you can call it that feeling in your gut. I call it my inner compass. But now we can use the analogy of a burning building. So my corporate job was the first burning building, where you're in the building, whether that's a relationship, whether that's an actual job, but you are saying, hey, y'all smell that smoke? smells like something burning. And people are like, no, we're good, we're good. Now I see the smoke. Do you see the smoke? Like, look out. No, it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. We're good. We've been here long enough. I think I know if the building was burning. That's how I felt when I worked at the hospital. I'm like, do y'all not see everybody's miserable? Are we good with this? Is this what we signed up for? And I kept fighting that feeling. When I get into situations, whether it's a job opportunity, whether it's connection with a new person, my inner compass will kind of activate quicker than it did before. I'm like, I smell smoke. Even though people might say, nah, there ain't no smoke. You crazy. Your nose is just sensitive. My inner compass is quicker and quicker and quicker, where I've given myself grace. So when I have the awareness, I don't judge it and say, oh man, how did you get here again, Crystal? Like, damn. It's like, oh shit. Hey, it's only been like a month instead of 2 years. Awesome. And the next thing is my abilities. If we're talking about a job or a relationship where you feel that inner compass, you feel that burning building, like maybe it's just a little warmer than before, where you know there's certain things that you want to say, and it could be out of love, but it could be tough to say, knowing that you can say them. So recognizing your abilities of, I could actually tell this person and be very clear, which means you're kind. Being unclear is unkind. F that shit about, oh, no, don't tell people this, or don't tell your spouse this, don't tell, let's be real. If there is a certain thing that you need from your spouse, whether support, whether it's listening, whether it's responding. Me and my husband have had some really dope conversations, and dope means growth. And that also means the shit was uncomfortable, but it was mother effing worth it because of the outcome. Again, I want to go back. There are some skills that I learned that I want to share with you. One is having the awareness of what the situation is, and that's by asking questions. But two, looking at your abilities. What could I do in this moment? Not convincing the other person. No. Speaking up. That is taking action. Do you get that? Because I've been told so many times, people like, Crystal, you hold space for me to have clarity. You help me kind of process things. You make me feel empowered. You make me feel like I can do anything. You allow me the moment to kind of just breathe and be like, oh, wait, I do know I'm dope as fuck. And I'm like, yeah. So how are we going to keep you dope as fuck? So I decided I'm doing this podcast for those who don't even know I'm out here. For those who think they're in this shit alone. You're not. And I'm certain that those of you who are listening, those who are nodding along, sitting there, taking it in, you are feeling these words I'm saying to you. And it's lighting you up a little bit. And maybe you haven't heard that in a while. But I will give you insight. I will give you courage. I will give you strategy. I will give you grace. I'm curious to know what it is that you want to hear going forward. Because this isn't about me. It's about you. What are your questions that you have? What are some hurdles you're currently going through? Name those challenges. Where do you stuck yourself time and time again? Where is that? Because people say, oh, I don't have the resources. I don't have the time to do that, figure that out. I need to do this. I need to get that. Okay. What I find is people get stuck because they don't ask for help. Out of fear, they're going to look stupid. Out of fear that people might judge them, but they just dig themselves deeper and deeper into a hole. Isn't it time? Aren't you tired? Unstuck yourself. Again, there's only one you. That is your superpower. You can't F that up, but you can ask for help. Hey, we did it! First episode completed. Shout out to us. We are dope. So I'm curious to know what topics you would be interested in learning more about and what action steps to take if you're experiencing certain work or life challenges or hurdles. So please email me at crystal@crystalclearpurposes.com, and your email could be answered by me on a future episode. It could be anonymous, or I could shout you out so that we can show you some love, because that's what this space is created for. us coming together, raising our hands and saying, yo, this shit feels weird, or it feels awkward, but I want support. I need help. I deserve love just by raising my hand. So you don't have any excuses to stay stuck. I want to give the gems that were dropped in today's episode. Number 1, being clear is kind and being unclear is unkind. That's by the lovely Brene Brown. Number 2, we tend to reach for the highest branch that we can see. Swing to other trees, y'all. And if you don't like that tree, there are so many more out there. Which basically means, number 3, you gotta see and do new shit, period. Number 4, speaking up is not to persuade others, but to honor yourself, your voice, and the things you want. Number 5, we are originals, created by something bigger. And some people won't understand you, but they weren't supposed to. Number 6, rather than judging yourself for being in an uncomfortable position or situation, which is what I call the burning building, give yourself grace for being aware of the burning building quicker. If you've enjoyed our time together and it feels good because you feel connected to something bigger, you got a little pep in your step, then I want you to tell your friends. Don't be selfish, y'all. I want everyone to feel that good. So subscribe to us on any podcast platform, Spotify, Apple, Google. Leave a comment, rate us, and tell us the issues you are experiencing. I want to give a huge shout out to my brother-in-law, Ev, who created the calming and melodic sounds that y'all hear every episode. I love y'all, and I'll talk soon. Bye.